Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket tens. This is 5NL game, cutoff limps, and it gets to me. Cutoff's playing 41-9, looks to be passive. I do have raise first in from cutoff with tens, half pot c-bet. And what's interesting is that he has pre-flop raise. This player has a pre-flop raise or raise first in stat 67% from the cutoff. This makes it his first time that he's limping. First in, he does limp other places. This makes it a little bit harder because I don't have a huge number of hands. And I thought initially maybe something like this. I do think, he did raise first in with tens. So I think he probably would do the same with, anything better. And then nines and eights are kind of like iffy. We also know that he has limp called with 5-4 suited. So I think maybe suited connectors, maybe suited one gappers, these lower ones, he might be limping with. It could be stronger hands too. And then it's kind of like, well, would he raise the 8 suited aces, or would he just call with them, limp with them? Would he raise with those types of hands, or would he just call with those? What about offsuits? Would he raise or just call? Suited aces, same thing, or offsuit aces. So I think in terms of the spread, I think this could be good because then he might be raising all of these from the cutoff, and everything else gets limp. So that kind of keeps the, we're already at 25%. If we start adding these, we'll add percentages, but I don't think we're going to be doubling 25%. So I think it kind of keeps the big spread between the VPIP and the pre-flop raise. Now it's on me. What should I do? I think this is a raise, 100% raise. We should be doing that, but I didn't. I just checked, which I have no idea why. Possibly since I have a decent hand and he limped, I'm assuming he has a pretty weak range. So, I'm calling just to kind of be tricky. But even then, I don't think tens is the hand to do it with. I think the hand to do it with would be aces, ace king, maybe ace queen, maybe kings and queens. Something up here where it's actually pretty strong, because right now with tens, any overcard is going to be scary to us. So I think we should just 3-bet here, and if he folds, he folds, but be aggressive. And if we 3-bet and he shoves over the top, we could probably just go ahead and fold, knowing that he likely has aces or kings. He is a shorter stack, less than 50 big blinds, so we do have to consider that. But disappointed I didn't raise this. King 5-4. It's a flop. I think we check here. Well, actually, no, it was a checked pot. What I don't want to do is, once I bet, I'm going to probably feel obligated to continue betting. Or if I bet here and I get called, I might have to slow down. If I check, that opens myself up to a bigger bet. So, half pot bet's 1.2. If I bet 1.2, or if I even bet 2 big blinds and he calls, we're now at over 6. If I check then on the turn, and he bets 6, it's gonna somewhat be hard to call, whereas I might take advantage of maybe some aggression. His c-bet stats here, just 1 out of 1. Let's check this. Yeah, bet 1 out of 11. It's looking like he doesn't necessarily like to bet his hand, is what it's looking like. So I do think if he doesn't like to bet his hand, I think we should be betting. betting here. So let's get these. I think we're going to have our gut shot. And then as our bluffs, I think we're kind of betting those. Kind of all these is kind of like a bluff. You know, 6, 7, 8, where we'd prefer just to get folds. I think, you know, fold those cards that have an overcard to us. So I think that's going to be, I think that's what we should do. I bet I didn't. I checked. Yeah. I think we're getting off the rails here. I'm sure I checked, kind of said, well, I'm going to check to him, and I'm planning to check call, which I guess is okay, because I think if we check call, we'll probably check calling all of these again. But I think I probably prefer betting based on this player's stats, his passivity, his reluctancy to bet his hands. So he did check. So once he checked, I'm going to say, I think sets are out. Maybe, I think top pair's out. I think we're looking at something like that. Is what he's looking at. And I think we're something like that. Actually, no, we would still have 100% because we checked. But I do think we should be betting here. Turns a 4. So now, you know, we didn't bet. I feel like we should be betting here. We don't want to give a jack, queen, or an ace a chance to beat us. So I do bet. I do bet half pot. So I had 100%, probably check calling. So now I think we are. I'm not even sure if I would count these cards as bluffs anymore, but I would definitely include gut shots as bluffs, the flush draws as bluffs. I think you could throw in no made hands as bluffs, but I think we should be betting all of that. Villain calls. That doesn't necessarily mean that he has trips. He could have any of those, but I think maybe some sort of draw like that. We'll give him the weak in the middle pair as well, just as a pair. Maybe he doesn't believe that we have a king or that we even have an overpair. So something like that. Our range is still ahead of his range. 6 isn't bad, because now if he had 5, 6, yeah, he hits 2 pair, he's going to pay, but we have a better 2 pair. So I think now, since we already bet, we should be betting. I would probably bet a little bit higher now, so that's half pot. I might go to 2/3, 3/4, something a little bit higher to go for some value. I mean, the advantage of going lower is it encourages calls with a wider range. So I think here I'm going for some top pair. I do think these overcards have value. So 7 and 8. I think these weaker ones, I think, are just checks. So I don't even think I'm going for much bluffs. Yeah, maybe ace high, maybe nothing, something like that. But we have to look at his rivers, and we're not going to have a whole lot. So he saw the river 5 out of 7 times, and then he bet 2 out of 3. We just don't know what he's going to do, and that's why I think, you know, exploitatively, this 7s and 8s, I'm probably going to bet, because if he was calling with like a 5 or a 5, 6, he's calling in our 2 pair. We want to get some value, so I'm betting those. His call, if we bet, I do think he's going to be raising a full house. I think he's going to probably be raising a straight and maybe even 3 of a kind. So if he just calls, I think we're looking at, yeah, these pocket pair less than the top cards, middle pair, weak pair, and maybe ace high. But I think he's looking at something like that, which means, when we look at overall ranges, if I have 7s or 8s, I'm really only losing to 9s or 8s or splitting the pot if he happens to have those. So I do like the bet here. He does call. He shows 2-5, so that wasn't in his range. But now that we know, we add it, it's still, he had a pair, he's calling. It's still consistent with the hands that he would play like this. And I think now this kind of goes more for, how I misplayed this. So I think raising pre-flop, that's still the play. We should have raised pre-flop. And he probably folds. And that's fine. If we're playing tricky with, let's say, our aces, we could assume we have aces. We call or just check behind on the flop. On this board, I think I lead. We're trying to get some value, so I think we're leading there because the king's going to call. But also because I think a player like this, I think he's going to call with a 5. He's going to call with a 4. He's probably going to call with your lower pairs, 6s, 7s, 8s. So I think we bet. I think we bet the flop. On the turn, if we bet the flop, I think we continue betting the turn. If we don't bet the turn, I think we check call the turn and then probably check call the river. If we bet the flop, we bet the turn. I think we probably start to check the river and go for some showdown with our 10s, because there's going to be a likelihood that if we bet the flop in the turn, it increases the chances that he actually has a king. Because calling it twice, he definitely has to say, well, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you have a king. And I think with those 2 bets, that second bet makes it less likely that they're going to think that. All right, made some mistakes on this hand. Did win this hand, but made some mistakes. This happened in May. I had actually looked at the date and said, no, surely this wasn't a more recent hand. Happened in May. Not sure why I played it this way, but I don't think I should have. This was a raise. It should have been a raise all the way pre-flop. But as played, I think I should have let out on the flop. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.